sides, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to jump, roll call, please.
Councilman Scrangy.
Present.
Councilman Livingston.
Present.
Councilwoman Krantz.
Present.
Councilman Taylor is absent. And Councilman Babstrap.
Present.
Councilman Mato.
Present.
President Scanlon.
Present.
That's everyone here except for one absent Taylor.
Okay. Let's jump to RL 19-149, contract with M&T Bank. They have a schedule, so this will be quick. Chuck Shager's going to present.
Let the record show that Councilman Taylor's here.
A couple months ago, we went out to propose for hiring a new agency to handle our insurance. Mostly our property, our casualty, a little bit of liability, cybersecurity, different things such of that nature, our property, covering our buildings and stuff. I personally excused myself because I knew too many players in the field. Okay, so I had a person from my department part of the committee, Ken was part of the committee, Mike Durvey was part of the committee, Megan Brackett was, and Lori Cliff. Okay, so we had 5 people. In going through the process, they ended up selecting M&T Bank to represent us.
No. Go ahead, Chuck, I'm sorry.
So we ended up, they ended up selecting M&T Bank to represent us. And I don't know, Ken, you want to add anything else?
This is based on their local presence, the experience that they have, the number of different agencies that they can work with, the work that they can help us with, right, reviewing contracts and things, existing contracts for liability issues. One of the things we asked them to kind of take a look at policies that we had now, before they even had the job. They really did a wonderful job kind of going through them and making some suggestions. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. We did ask somebody to come down, just in case you had something, because we need, particularly for cybersecurity, we want to move this forward ASAP, so it's going to be expedited.
The question I have is, this will be handled out of Buffalo office?
This will be handled out of Syracuse.
Syracuse office, okay.
Yes.
All right, thanks.
Everybody that we talked to was either Syracuse or Albany, where the main office
Okay.
is. Right, we figured that M&T has a very local presence.
Are there questions or comments? Yes, Councilman Livingston.
Just a question for the clerk. Could we get a copy of the, could you email us a copy of the attached documents that are associated with this RL? It just, there's a checkbox on the RL that says that there's additional information attached to the RL. What's that?
No, I said there's nothing attached.
And there's nothing attached. I just, before we vote on it, I'd like to take a look at that and really anything else we've got on it.
The only thing I think it could be is your little package. So you're gonna propose.
Packet. Whatever the attachment is, it didn't make its way down to the clerk's office.
Oh, it didn't, okay.
I don't
Dave, just to
Yeah.
Other,
I mean, what we can do is we can send you, there's a little booklet like this, what they gave us in the presentation.
That'd be great if we could get an email to us.
Sure.
other
Thanks.
questions or comments? Thank you for coming down, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down.
You never know.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna have a discussion at the Binghamton Johnson Joint Sewage Treatment Facility. We have Adam Afifi here, I believe.
I don't think you see it.
Thought you looked good.
Adam's here, and also, we have Jerry Nystrom from Jacobs Engineering here also. And let me preface this by saying I asked Ken Frank to send out an email to Adam Afifi stating tonight's is just going to be discussion regarding the construction of the sewage treatment plant, and we're not going to talk about privatization tonight. That's in a committee right now. Don't come back with a suggestion. We have plenty of time to talk about privatization later on. So this will just be about construction, and also I asked Mr. Afifi just to limit it to what he's already discussed with Jerry about. I don't want something that Jerry's not aware of. It doesn't make any sense to bring it up here. So,
Can I make a comment to that real quick?
sure.
That was sent to me at Friday at 11:30.
time to find out what was discussed. I'm representing the entire plan here. So I don't know what was given to him and what wasn't, or timelines, or none of that.
Well, Mr. Nystrom can tell us if he doesn't know aware of that, then we'll not, no sense discussing it tonight. I mean, it's gotta be something he's aware of so we can discuss it, okay?
Okay.
So, Mr. Fifi, you're welcome to go ahead and start your presentation, please. The way it's gonna work, Mr. Fifi, I'll let you speak, and then Jerry can respond to what has been said, and if you need to speak again, you're more than welcome to, okay?
Sorry.
Yes.
Mr. President, should they both be up at the?
Well, I don't, doesn't matter.
How do you wanna do it?
It doesn't matter right now. Jerry can step a seat, you can step up to have a seat next to him, Jerry, if you like, or you wanna wait, it's up to you.
Tough deal.
You're fine right there right now until you want to respond, okay?
You guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, just let me know I'm very nervous. To let you guys know I'm very nervous. I hate public speaking.
So am I.
please just
So am I.
bear
It's
with
all
me.
right. Go ahead.
Don't worry
All
about it.
right. So first of all, I'm here representing the Binghamton Johnson City Joint Sewage well, see, here I go. I'm representing the Binghamton Johnson City Sewage Plant staff. We have over 200 years combined experience. My name's Adam Afifi. I'm an operator mechanic at the plant. I've been there for 11 years. I'm also an operator mechanic at the West Windsor wastewater treatment plant. I've been there for 5 years. First, I'd like to talk about transparency. It's defined by the visibility or accountability of information, especially when concerning business practices. With that being said, we're told that we're not allowed to post on Facebook, we're not allowed to talk to the press, and then I received an email on Friday telling me what I can and can't talk about. You guys gave me Friday and Monday to collect specific information that I don't have access to, especially in that kind of short timeline. As far as construction, the big project we're working on right now is a digester, and I'm not gonna be able to cover everything today. The biggest project we're working on right now is a digester. We feel that this process is being very rushed. There are leaks in pipes. One specifically is the lower supernate line for digester number 3. It's my understanding that all these pipes are supposed to be pressure test, and when that line was filled with just water, it leaked out with no pressure being added. I personally told this to a Jacobs employee, so I know they know about that one. The plant staff is currently installing 12 critical valves on the 3 digesters. We have already rebuilt 2 critical valves to isolate the digesters. These were not included in the contract. The cone walls on digesters 1 and 2 are still leaking. Digester 3 was sealed from top to bottom, then it was leak tested. Digesters 1 and 2 only have sealant on the walls. And the cone remains unsealed, and to my knowledge, there's been no leak test performed. I personally expressed concern to this at Jerry at the city council tour. Again, I talked to a GHD employee after that. I was told by that gentleman that there is a amount of acceptable leaking, and that this may or may not be within that amount. So then I brought this to my supervisor, and he brought it to a construction meeting, and after it was discussed that we had pictures of it, I guess they're going to do the stop leak foam injections on digester 3. Plant staff also found we were getting ready to feed the digester because of the startup and the seeding process that was done. We didn't want to ruin all the work that we've already done. So it was time to start feeding. There was myself and several other plant members. We were walking the feed lines to make sure we knew what valves had to be open and closed, so we were ready to do what we had to do when it was time. And we found a line that was cut off and emptying into the basement. This line would have been a charged line when we turned on the feed pumps, and all that sludge would have gone straight to the basement. The plant took it upon themselves to repair that line. As far as headworks, the process is yet to work correctly under our limited max flow. As of right now, all 3 screens are being ran, and during training we were told that 1 screen should be able to handle 30 million gallons a day. During our rain events now, we get 35, and 3 screens are having a hard time. I'm being told that our flush water is the issue. These things have to be constantly cleaned out and flushed. And so we're using creek water and now our effluent to run these flush pumps, which is beating up our brand new equipment. design, where the plant design is to run our effluent once it's cleaned up through the primary and secondary process. Safety concerns. It feels like the safety for the plant staff is not being considered. We are constantly getting hydrogen sulfide alarms in several processes of the plant. Plant staff is required to wear personal monitors. We're putting up portable fans. We're keeping doors open. This has been an ongoing issue and is yet to be addressed. The digester is a Class 1 Division 1 area. It requires special explosion-proof equipment. It's currently up and running and building gas. And we have temporary electrical trees that are sparking. That happened last week, I believe. There are open lines and untested plumbing. There's cutting being done, sparks being thrown, which could react with the gas in the room. In the headworks facility, there's also been high H2S readings. The ventilation system is not installed. We're forced to keep the doors open, and yet, despite these dangerous conditions, we're required to do our jobs in these areas. The next section is the O&M manuals and training. There's been several requests made for O&M manuals, and just to show you the difference, so this is our training class, this is what we're going by now, and then this is an example of an O&M manual for this same training. So you get a little more information out of one than the other. We have several pieces of equipment that we're running that we don't have the O&M manuals for. We're still running off our training. There's also been video training that has not been released to us at all. So even though we've had training on this sometimes a year and a half ago, the videos were supposed to be made to refresh us, or people that weren't able to make the classes, they could watch the videos, and we don't have access to those either. Sorry, I was jumping around a little bit, just give me a second. As far as the previous posts and meetings, in the past, we posted on Facebook with issues, and they're taken care of shortly after. We came to you guys at the last meeting and talked about the mess around the plant. One of the plant staff mentioned that, and the plant hasn't looked so nice. They've been cleaning up everywhere. You can actually walk around without tripping over everything. We found with our experience that going through the proper channels doesn't really work for us, at least as far as I can tell. Like I go to my supervisor, that goes to the meetings, and that goes to whoever from there. But when we talk to you guys, we put it on Facebook, it gets taken care of right directly. It was said before that we were being deceitful with our posts, and that's definitely not the case. We're looking for the best for the plant, so we can run it for the next 20 to 30 years. Actually, I plan on being a lot longer than that. In closing, our intentions are not to target one company or a single person. We've had a plant built in the past and it was very subpar. We do not want to see history repeat itself. We do not want the same situation we found ourselves back in with the 2011 tragedies. We've been warned to stop posting construction issues on Facebook since we haven't posted any. We've talked to Jacob, City Council, and the trustees about our issues we found. We just want to see the plant run and the construction succeed. And that's all I got today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fifi. Appreciate it. Questions or
Thank you.
comments?
Adam,
Yeah.
one question I have, how many active employees do you have at the plant right now?
I'm gonna say 36. Anyway, right around there. Yeah, right around 36.
36, 37,
Mhm.
38, I mean, what is?
I don't have an exact number.
36, I believe, was the number we were told at the last budget meeting about it.
Other questions or comments?
Are we gonna get to ask questions of
Sure,
both of them?
sure, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should wait until
Okay.
Jerry responds and.
Jerry, you wanna step up there, please, and, Jerry, if you responded to these in the past, please let us know that. I mean, there's no sense hashing over it again if you responded to these in the past. Did you get a copy of their letter?
Nope, I have nothing from anybody in regards to what they were gonna present.
Yeah, to help you out, yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
So just starting off with regards to the digester and the feeling that's being rushed, there's a consent order that says we have to have these things online by a certain time, and there was a push that was being made by us and plant management to try to comply with that consent order. And thankfully, digester number 3 was brought online and avoided a conflict with the consent order. Digesters 1 and 2, the construction is complete on those, and they are ready to be brought online as soon as there is sufficient sludge. That has been addressed with DEC to avoid having a conflict with the consent order. I'm not aware of a specific leak in the pipe. I will check with my staff in the morning and I'll get back with you regarding
Okay.
that. If I had been given this in advance, I could have gone through and figured out exactly what the specific issues are. Plant's replacing 12 critical valves on the digesters on the supernatant. Those valves probably should have been replaced years ago, but nothing was done as far as the maintenance was concerned to replace those valves. And it's a maintenance item to replace those valves. They were not included in the construction, so to comply with that would have caused an additional delay on startup for digesters on the project. Plant staff has had to already rebuild 2 critical feed valves that isolate digesters 1 and 2. Again, if the valves were defective and needed to be replaced during the design phase, they could have identified this to the engineer, and the engineer would have included it in the construction contract. They weren't included in the construction contract, so the plant stepped in to do the rehabilitation of it. I would like to personally thank plant staff for the efforts that they put into getting digester number 3 online. It has been a monumental task by a lot of people. We had a contractor who refused to do what we all agreed was part of his scope of work, and we stepped in to help write the plan and implement the plan with the assistance of the plant staff. So they've done a yeoman's effort to get that digester up and in process, and it is producing as it should produce. During the walkthrough, Mr. Afifi did identify that there were some leaks in the cone for digester 1, I believe it was, he said. We brought the contractor in to do the crack injection for those cones, both digester 1 and 2, and to re-inspect this, make sure that we get all of the leaks. There were significant leaks in the area between the cone and the wall prior to the coatings. Crust steel put coatings on, those leaks had to be addressed. Could have been done anytime in the last 8 years, but it was an urgent issue to get the coatings on the walls as recommended by the engineer, as recommended by DEC, so we made the effort to get those crack injections done. It's the standard of the industry to do that for concrete. Concrete is a medium that does leak. In fact, it's proof that engineers and contractors and owners recognize the concrete leaks. ACI, which is probably the foremost authority on concrete tankage in the country, specifically has a section on concrete tanks and talks about the necessity to leak test prior to putting them in service. If they didn't feel they had a potential for leaking, they wouldn't ask you to test them in advance. So we have done that with each of the tanks that have been used on this project. And again, digester 1, 2, and 3 are all existing digesters that have been out of service for 8 years, and any of this repair could have been done during the last 8 years. Plant staff found, according to this document, that had to repair an open pipe that was needed to feed digester number 3. Not aware of one of those existing, but be happy to look into that issue. Fortunately, before anybody put any flow into the pipe, it was addressed. Headworks, I know that the manufacturer of the screens has suggested that the screens are capable of 30 MGD each. We've asked the plant to run them in a single mode as opposed to all 3 at the same time. There were definitely issues during the functional demonstration test where the water supply from potable water was inadequate to do the screen cleaning that is required. Contractor hooked up the plant water system to it, and they have not completed the final stage of the plant water system, which happens when the flow goes through CN and DN. Once that happens, there will be the effluent that is being referred to. We've suggested that the contractor investigate using potable water for filling the plant water pump station. The engineers looked into that as well. We were not particularly thrilled that the current final effluent was being used in lieu of the water from the stream, but there wasn't sufficient water from the stream to actually flush these streams. So we're all kind of having to make do until we have the final startup of the plant water pump station at the end of August. It's true that it is a poorly treated final effluent. That's been what we've had all along. The safety concerns about the H2S, we've asked the plant to keep the doors closed. The odor control system is functional. If they'll keep the doors closed, they have a better chance of exhausting the H2S from this facility. There are, yes, in an environment of this type, personal monitors are often warned to make sure that plant staff are not exposed to hazardous gases that they should not be exposed to. Digester building classification 1, Div 1, it is an explosion-proof environment, as Mr. Fifi has said. I'm not aware of any sparking electrical trees as he referred to. If he wants to show us where they are, we'd be happy to make sure that the contractor addresses those. There were discussions about H2S, the headworks. Again, the doors have been left open. We've asked the plant staff to close the doors and leave the doors closed so the odor control can do its job. O&M manuals and training, we've turned over most of the O&M manuals that have been submitted to date. There are a number of avenues that the plant staff can look at the O&M manual in our current state. We have implemented, back in 2015, we implemented an electronic document control system, and plant staff's management has access to that system to be able to look at the O&M manuals that exist in the system. We have regular weekly meetings with plant staff management. If plant personnel have issues, they need to bring them up through management to the table. We'd be happy to resolve any issues that come up. Again, we believe in transparency as well. You made the comment that we said you were deceptive. We think there's misrepresentation of circumstances. I've addressed those in the past, and I don't particularly want to go into those at this particular time. The standard nature of construction is that a contractor is responsible for the means and methods for quality control and compliance with the contract. The owner's obligation is quality assurance. We inspect each of the installations to verify compliance with the contractor and the engineer. If there are issues identified and they are resolved, we don't write up a specific issue on each and every piece of rebar that's out there. There's been thousands and thousands of times where inspections were done, things were corrected, and we moved forward. Where there are issues that have not been addressed or of a significant enough nature, we develop issues at the regular progress meetings that are discussed not only with the contractor but with plant staff. The plant staff is given an opportunity to voice any concerns that they have. We take their concerns very seriously. We specifically identify a period of time during every progress meeting for these construction contracts to let the plant staff have their say of things that they're observing. We appreciate the second set of eyes. We can't be in every particular location at all times, so anytime the plant staff sees something, we encourage them to bring it up to us. end of construction of a specific component, when it's ready to be turned over by the contractor to the owner, there will be a walkthrough with a punch list developed of things that are observed by the owner, the engineer, construction manager, plant staff has attended these in the past. We've had facilities ready to turn over to the plant. When the issue goes on the punch list, it will be resolved. It's not going to be removed from the punch list without being resolved.
All right, go ahead.
No, that's.
I've got a question. Mr. Afifi, he was talking about the digester repair. We gave $80,000 to repair the digesters last time, one of them, and it didn't work. What makes sure it's going to work compared to what happened in the past? Jerry?
The engineer has developed, has analyzed the structure to find out where the particular leaks are, and we have addressed those. As Adam said, with regards to digester 3, the project that was done in the past, it didn't solve the problem.
No, it didn't stop the leaks at all.
And we did stop the leaks. We found the specific leaks, we addressed the specific issues. Instead of treating a symptom, we went to the root cause of the problem to fix the problem. And it has cleared a leak test, and digester 3 has passed the leak
It was
test.
to repair a digester. One of the digesters were cracked, and it actually never fixed it. They went in there to repair it, and it actually never fixed it.
So the engineer never analyzed it the first time we put 80K toward it?
I can't speak to what somebody.
This was
did
before
us.
they started.
I know.
I can explain.
Yeah, I understand that. I just.
Was it 300,000? And that's why I was wondering what makes yours better to repair than what they did before that didn't work.
Can I speak on that real quick?
Sure.
Digester 3 is great right now. It's been sealed from top to bottom. It's got
Awesome.
a nice seal coating.
Good.
It went under, I believe it was a 3-day leak test, where it was filled with water for 3 days, the level stayed constant. The concern that we're having is digesters 1 and 2 have the same coating, but only partway down the wall. And then once it gets to the cone, there's no more coating, and that's where we're seeing the leaks.
What do you mean by the cones?
Okay, so
I don't know
the
what
way
the
a
inside
digester
is.
is, it's shaped, it comes straight down, and then it cones to the bottom, so
Okay.
then all the sludge can make it to the center. And
Okay.
then that's where we pump it from. Oh, that's how we used to pump it. I think these ones are different.
That's what it should be done, but it's not the way these are.
We can agree on something.
Again, I'm not the engineer for that particular scope of work. It's my job to make sure that the contractor complies with what the engineer has asked them to do. The engineer asked that the walls be coated to the cone. That's what we had them do.
What an interest that was. Mr. Afifi, I'll let you respond to what Jerry said here one more time, and then Jerry can answer, and then we'll be done, because I don't wanna go back and forth all night. Then council can ask questions, okay?
Okay.
So if any of you wanna respond to Mr. Afifi, that's fine.
Well, the feed bills, first of all, they were mentioned when we were asked about the construction, and they were coming in, they were talking to us before all the construction happened. I know for a fact we mentioned those because I was one of the ones that was big on that, because I'm the guy that has to rebuild them, or my department's the department that has to rebuild them. The digesters 1 and 2, I got one question, are those gonna be leak tested also, like number 3 was?
The owner wants a leak test on it, we do a leak test
Can't
on
make
it.
that call. I personally feel it should.
Do you mean a leak test as it relates to the coating that you were talking about earlier?
Yes. Like number 3, like I said, a fabulous job was done on number 3. The coating goes from the top of the digester all the way down to the bottom. On 1 and 2, it's only on the sidewalls. It's not on the bottom, and that's where we're seeing the leaks coming in.
Sounds like that's something that needs to be done.
It sure does.
Why wasn't a leak test part of the original plan, and why wasn't the coating down to the very bottom? I mean, I understand that
Okay.
that was what the engineer recommended, but why did the engineer recommend that?
Well, you're gonna have to ask the engineer that, first. And secondly, the issue that was brought up was the potential, deterioration of concrete at the exposure of the hydrogen sulfide gas and other, corrosive gases that tend to be in the top of the digester. Down below, in the lower levels, you don't have that same condition. That coating is not a leak protection. That coating is a concrete protection to protect the concrete from chemical deterioration. That exposure doesn't exist as much in the bottom of the digester as it does at the top of the gas digester. As far as leaks in the digesters, we're not seeing any signs of leaks in the construction joint between the wall and the cone. We're seeing some signs of leakage in the cone itself. Contractor has been brought in to repair those leaks before we put those in service.
And repair them with the stop leak foam?
It's not a stop leak foam as you're referring to it. It's a polyurethane foam. It's standard of the industry for sealing concrete where concrete has migration of water. It's not a structural issue with concrete. It's a leak prevention issue.
And how does this foam hold up with the conditions in the digester? It's not just water up against it like in other parts.
It'll be fine. It's suitable for that application according to the industry standards.
Mr. Fifi, go ahead.
As far as the H2S, I haven't personally experienced this, but there is plant staff here in the room that have. That's why it was brought up today. They asked me, representing them, if I would bring that up, because they're working these buildings. The H2S in the centrifuge room, I wouldn't see it because I work on days. Those centrifuges aren't ran until second shift, late in the day, and then it goes into third shift, and that's the crews having the issue with it.
I've got a question, as long as you brought that up. Mr. Nystrom mentioned, how come the doors aren't closed if they recommended you keep the doors closed in their room?
If we close them, the personal monitors go off. We open the doors to put in our own ventilation. We're using giant barn fans to try to circulate the air through that room to knock down the levels of H2S where our alarms will quit going off.
Okay.
There are two particular areas that I'm aware of that have got H2S conditions. One is the existing centrifuge room. That odor control is now operational. The other is at the headworks. That odor control is operational.
Last night,
In the centrifuge room or?
centrifuge, we start with everything shut tight, but our alarms go off at 24, 17, 15, and then after that, we just open everything up.
And on that note, I mean, it says here, when talking about the digester building, which is the Class 1 Division 1 area, we have brand new gas monitoring equipment already failing. Is that accurate? And if so, how do you have a new building with new gas monitoring equipment that's already failing? Which seems like it has to do with this issue.
I don't believe you have any gas monitoring equipment that's failing, but
There's two with red lights on them right now, one's flashing, the other one's.
is it an alarm or is it fail?
The one says alarm 22.7, but the personal monitors do not register. The other one says change sensor.
Okay. Those sensors do wind up having to be changed periodically. We will have those two specific locations looked at in the morning.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Councilman
If you bring those to our attention.
Should we let Adam finish so that we can, or should we?
No,
However you
yeah,
want to do it, but,
say, yeah.
yeah, whatever you want.
Adam, go ahead and finish up what you have there, and we'll let Jerry answer, then we'll open up to the council for questions. We'll let Jerry.
The electrical tree location was in the digester. If you're down that way tomorrow, I'll be more than happy to show you.
Okay.
I will get the exact location of
Specifically,
it.
what level are we talking about that?
I believe it was the lower level. Yes. Thank you. And the,
Is it existing equipment or is it new?
it is temporary.
Yes, and we also did notify MECO about it, and it's still sitting.
Okay. Well, if you'll notify us, we can get back over this one.
Did my boss.
Mr. Fifi, you have something else?
Just the O&M manuals.
Okay.
We're responsible, my department's responsible for inputting all this into the CMMS software. And right now we're going off of our training manuals, trying to get all our equipment in there. It's the computerized, maintenance management software. And if we had the full manual, it would help us out quite a bit.
I know we took 4 or 5 boxes of them over to you 2 weeks ago.
I saw PSTs, 1 through 6 and 7 through 10. Active flow, which are two processes that aren't online yet. And then I found this one, and there was the flood wall, I believe, was the last one. That was in our library that I had access to today.
Do you have power to look online on the phone?
Yeah, those are all preliminary, though, aren't they?
Well, if you're looking to put it into your system, obviously,
Communication.
Yeah,
Talk to
that's
them.
exactly, yeah, that's exactly right.
we went to
This
that
is
effort to
exactly
give
what
them
I'm
access to that.
Yeah, why don't they have each other's phone number and talk to each
I
other?
will talk to them.
Yeah, like, this is just.
Is that it? Okay, Jerry, any response you wanna do that? All right, council, let's open up for questions. What questions you have?
Yeah,
Councilman Scarnati?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. There is an incredible disconnect here, okay? And we just witnessed it. So, Adam was talking about an issue that was currently going on, which Jacobs is not aware of, which then a plant employee said that they reported it, but it wasn't reported to you, right? Adam, during your presentation, you stated that the line of communication is quote-unquote confusing. So, between the disparity of social media postings, Facebook, and whatever in the world is going on, why are not people talking to each other? Because by definition, I don't care what certifications you have, I don't care what knowledge you have, I don't care how many days or months or years you've been in the business. If you are not talking to each other, things are not getting done. And my simple question is, why? Why?
So, just one example to answer that. I specifically told a Jacobs employee about that pipe leaking. But apparently it hasn't been passed on to Jerry yet.
I'll find out specifically.
Is there a person that Mr. Afifi can speak to that would go directly to you, or is there a number he could call you and leave you a message?
I have a telephone number, I have email, I am across the street from the plant, basically, 9-10 hours a day. We have mechanical inspectors, we have civil inspectors. I'll
It
find
seems
out.
like if he's talked to
There was-
somebody,
there
it
was a
should be coming
piping
directly
issue
to you.
Where it was leaking, it won't pass the hydrostatic test.
Right. I mean, if I can, right, if I'm Giovanni Scaringi, plant employee, and I'm working on a Monday, and it's 11:37 in the morning, and I notice issue X, can someone explain to the seven of us, what is the line of a communication that has to occur from Giovanni Scaringi, plant employee, to Jacobs Construction? What does that actually look like? Can someone actually describe the logistics of that line of communication? Can anybody do that? Anyone?
We have nothing in writing that says how to do it. Like, I assumed I grabbed the Jacobs personnel.
Oh, okay,
Told
but
them the issue, okay, so if we had like I go to this person, I'd be more than happy to do that. If Jerry wants me to come straight.
so
to
you
him,
need a line. Wait, hold on. So you need a line of communication written down, like
we always go by a chain of command. That's
It-
how it's always been.
chain of command is fine, but like, for example, I represent the first district, okay? If I notice that there's an issue in the First Ward Park, I don't need it written down to me that there's a line of succession that I should maybe talk to someone in the Parks Department? Right, like, I don't need that written down.
I grabbed the Jacobs employee and told him about it.
Yeah, but is he a management staff that would go back to him? That's what we're questioning.
Adam, hold on.
My field inspectors have the authority to deal with issues, but if the issue wasn't dealt with, then let me know that the issue's not dealt with.
All right, who goes to the meetings with Jacobs? Who's at your meeting, a weekly meeting? Who's there?
Plant manager,
Craig?
Craig, Jim Ross typically, head of maintenance,
Ron Lake, I'm assuming?
Ron Lake comes, Elliot Wagner, I forget the other gentleman's name, Ron. Ward. John, not John Kelly. Yes, he is at several of them as well. have these meetings every week. There is a specific owners meeting every week that those people are also included in. If they have issues, all they have to do is bring them up. Certain things of serious nature like an electrical issue, you don't have to wait to go through a chain of command to say, hey, I got a problem here, folks. Tell us. We would be happy to get the contractor to resolve the problem.
Well, apparently Mr. Fifi talked to the wrong person that just didn't care. That's the way it sounds to me.
Well,
And, you know, there
Adam,
should be a
no.
point person where somebody in the plant that they would come to Mr. Fifi and say, hey, we're having a problem with this. Mr. Fifi goes to that point person which brings it to you.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not sure that the issue wasn't addressed already. Has it been addressed, the leak? No.
What did you?
With all due respect, keep in mind that we're not talking about a micro level or a disaggregated issue. This is a very broad brush, macro level point that I'm making. Because we've had this back and forth at a number of meetings now, right? You know, and I mean, I'm assuming here, right, like, so again, plant employee spoke to person B, and person B was supposed to speak to Jerry or whomever that is supposed to be, right? So I'm assuming in this particular scenario, at the micro level or at the individual level, that person B did not do their job. I'm going to be very blunt. I mean, I've had concerns about this entire process from day one, but I got to be honest with you. Like, if the current layout logistical structure is like this, because I've got both professional, private, and public sector experience, this screams to me public sector. I mean, somebody who's from the outside looking in and not knowing anything at all except for this particular issue would say this screams privatization. That people aren't even talking to each other? And by the way, that's not a pro-privatization statement. That's just logistical. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. And people are not even talking to each other. Or if they are, the line of communication is not succinct the entire way through. We're relying on everyone else here who are the professionals. Right? I'm an economist. I can bore you for 4 hours about opportunity costs. I can't do that about digesters. Just like everyone else here has each of their respective areas of skill set. Like, what in the world is going on? This is literally the 3rd or 4th meeting where people are actually making allegations and claims that issue X is going on and it's not taken care of. Or if it has been taken care of, that it's not going back on point. And like, with all due respect, like, why are these things being put on Facebook? For God's sake, why isn't somebody calling me or him or her or him? Like, why? Why is that being put on Facebook? Why? If somebody called me and told me that an issue wasn't being done, I would scream from the mountaintops. I just don't get it. I don't get it. There literally is inconsistent to no communication going on. And no one has a clue why. And our constituents are looking at us and saying, what in the world is going on?
I stopped, I did my job, you know, I stopped my job, I went to the appropriate person, I thought. I found a Jacobs employee, expressed my issue, this is what happens. Now we put it on Facebook, it gets taken care of. I'm not saying that that's the way we're gonna go.
If it doesn't work by contacting one point, contact a higher level. Do you have Jerry's number?
He's right across the street.
You can't walk across the street. Instead, you're gonna. Why post it on Facebook when you can walk across the street or
I
get a
still
phone call?
I still have a job to do. I still work for 8 hours a day, and then I come across something like this, so I try to hunt down an employee and still do
But
my
you
job.
take time to post it on Facebook instead of having somebody in the senior level take care of it.
I came here for a month.
I'm not talking about the.
Excuse me,
I'm
hold
gonna
on,
talk
hold on.
for a
You're-
second, because you're attacking.
No, hold on, hold on. You're not involved in the conversation. You're not on the agenda. You can't speak. I'm sorry. It's the way it works. It's the way it works. Hold on. You're not involved. You can't speak in the conversation. Hey, now, let me ask you a question. Now, when you saw this leak, do you normally report that to your superior? Is that part of the process or no?
I was working on it, I found the leak, I walked out, right next door was a Jacobs employee, I grabbed him and said, hey, just so you know, these 245s right here are leaking in these 3 joints. And he said, okay, we'll take care of it.
How long ago was that?
I'm gonna say at least 3 weeks ago. I wanna say a month, but I don't wanna overexaggerate.
But you took the time to put it on here, but you didn't take the time to tell Jerry.
Jerry, for what it's worth, flipping the coin for a moment, in looking at it through the lens of the other side. So let's run through again this silly, simple hypothetical again, right? Giovanni Scaringi notices issue X. He talks to person B, and B is supposed to get in contact with either you or your team. Does person B work for you, or are they a plant employee?
If you're talking about a Jacobs inspector, they work for me.
Correct, right.
I have no issues.
Right.
With that particular part of it.
You know, I know you don't, and in your defense, you've made that point several times at a number of meetings, but what I'm saying is, hypothetically, again, if I were to able to provide proof that I spoke to person B about issue X on date Y at time Z, and maybe you didn't know about it, and I'm showing you, I sent an email, or a phone call, or a text message, or I lit a bonfire in my backyard and sent a pigeon with a message, and they got it, right? Is there ramifications to person B for that lack of communication that they did not do, that the plant employee did properly communicate to?
Sure, we hold our employees accountable. That's the nature of our industry. We hold our employees accountable. I am going to find out what this issue specifically was.
It just seems to me it should be coming back every 2 weeks to us, that
Yeah.
there's an issue, that there's no communication. That's what it sounds like to me, and there should be a point person, either from everybody that works in the plant, going to one person like Mr. Fifi, and he should bring it to a point person, because you might not be there that day, and that point person can take care of it or bring it to your attention.
And
And it seems like it hasn't been that way.
We can't have 40 people bringing
No,
issues up.
I understand
They
that.
need to come through some
It
kind
needs to
of
come through
But
one
I think it would be
mechanism.
good if you would choose a point of contact for them that's only there for our staff that it's working on.
This way, otherwise you're gonna keep coming back every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
because he's gonna have issues that he sees and it's not being communicated back to you. Or your staff that properly can fix it. That's what it seems to me
Adam,
like.
if you saw it, let's say it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, and after a week, you saw nothing was getting done. I mean, at that point, I mean, I've got 30 employees myself. If someone comes to me and says, I need to get this done, and it's not done in a week or something, they'll come back and say, you know, remember I told you about this thing, it's not getting done. It sounds like he never heard about it, and there was never any future contact with it either. And these are important issues, because nobody wants this plant running smooth and more than we do, because we're responsible for the residents that are gonna be paying the rate to have this new plant.
And I'm one of the residents, Chris, and you are too.
We are too.
And so isn't
And
everybody else.
We're very
there.
concerned about this thing
It's
coming
not
up
like we get it for free.
coming up to speed and being there for the next 20 years, running properly.
I agree.
Why aren't the actual inspectors that work for Jacobs finding these issues? Because we can scold Adam for not.
We're not scolding
you know,
yet.
for-
We're asking questions.
No. Hold on one
I wasn't
second.
scolding
Councilman,
you.
with all due respect, don't do that. Nobody's scolding anyone.
I wasn't scolding
Nobody's
him. I was
scolding
asking,
anybody.
he asked the wrong- he
Okay?
told the wrong
Okay.
person.
All
Well,
right,
let me finish my
I'm asking
statement.
hold on, I'm asking an objective question. I asked it from both sides of the coin through both lenses. With all due respect, don't do that. Don't
Okay.
do that, because that's not fair.
Okay.
That is not fair.
To be
can
fair,
talk-
you were yelling the whole time, and it was hard to tell.
If you were
whether-
talking to me like that, I would
Yeah.
not be very happy.
Oh, okay, well, with all due respect, I wasn't addressing you, I was addressing the rest of the room.
I
Okay,
understand
but
that.
please continue.
You know, we can talk to Adam about, you know, his ability or inability to report concerns that he's found at the staff or that other staff personnel have found at the plant, excuse me. But the truth is that that's not their job. I mean, the fact that we have those eyes and ears at the plant is incredible, and the fact that they are taking it upon themselves to report things, and obviously there's an issue with the line of communication here, but you know, that doesn't seem like the crux of the problem to me. The crux of the problem to me is that there are glaring issues that do exist with construction that seems to have been approved, and it is literally the responsibility of Jacobs to be finding those issues and addressing those issues, and those inspectors to be clearing that and communicating it to Jerry. The truth is that, you know, it's essentially a bonus that folks like Adam are at the plant, have this history there, and are keeping an eye out, but they aren't being paid to do that. That is not in their job description. So, you know, I think larger concern and my larger question is, let's establish this line of communication like everyone's been saying, but do you feel like there is a lack of field inspectors, or a lack of oversight, or a lack of or an issue around the finalization of these construction items? Because it does seem like there is some sort of pattern that exists surrounding construction having issues after being completed that we've come across in the past few weeks and in this document.
For you to assume that these items have been completed or whatnot is probably not a correct assumption. There are issues that happen on any construction project. Our inspectors notice things daily, weekly, monthly. Things are addressed with the contractors, they get addressed on the spot. We don't write up a specific deficiency report on everything that we see. There are a lot of things that we have had off beforehand. If there are some occasions that happen on the existing system or some other component, we look for those things as well. But I don't even know specifically which pipe he's talking about today. I had asked for specifics so that I could be prepared to address specifics. I haven't had that opportunity. I don't even know which specific 45s he's referring to. Sludge lines? Which ones?
The lower supernate lines of the digestion tree.
Okay. Those are existing lines?
Nope.
Those are new lines that are put in by Quandel?
Okay. I don't know what sort of, but they are new. They weren't there before.
Okay.
They go to the overflow box.
Okay. Now that I know which specific area that you're talking about, I can verify the conditional, whether it had been correct or not correct.
All right, Councilman Pappas, please.
As I also said, we have regular meetings with plant management. Every week, we have at least 2 or 3 meetings with them. If they have issues, all they need to do is mention them during those. We specifically give them a process for doing that. We specifically get their buy-in before we allow the contractors to fill in areas to do work. As I said, we communicate regularly with Craig and Elliot and Howard and Jim Ross.
Maybe they weren't made aware of the situation. If Adam told an employee of yours and didn't bother, figured out would take care of the problem, maybe Elliot or the others didn't know.
I'll just start telling everybody from now on, personally. I'll get all everybody. I got no
Or
problem
tell the
with that.
plant manager or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, if you
My
could tell-
question,
If they have weekly meetings,
Yes,
then it
there's-
should be brought up.
Jerry, my question is,
I don't know.
how many
I don't know
inspectors
the
do you
answer
have
to
on the
this.
job?
We have 4 inspectors out there currently.
And has this been the number that you've been dealing with?
We've staffed up and down depending upon the level of work on the site.
All right.
We also have a testing lab that provides additional inspection for specialty inspections.
Right, so if you got 4 inspectors, and that's it's a fairly large plant, it's a huge plant, and you may have issues, I mean, they may have gone by, not seen a particular issue, and maybe not go back that way for another 3 or 4 weeks, who knows?
No.
I don't know how that works.
Every area on a daily basis.
With four inspectors, you can cover
They
that
have,
whole
they have, they
area.
have roving responsibilities to go to each of the facilities. on a
So, I
daily
mean,
basis.
so how would they miss that, if it's been leaking for a month, how would they miss it? If they were roving around, trying to find this, or looking for stuff. How would they miss it for that
Whether,
long?
whether
their
they've
defense-
heard it from somebody or not, how would they
In their
miss
defense,
that?
that line has not been in service yet, but it was filled with water. I was asked to fill it with water by the same employee that I reported it to. So when they do put it in service, it doesn't leak out gas, and when I filled it with water, that's when I found it leaking, and that's when I went back and told them, hey, that line's leaking, it's not holding water.
But it's not been put into service yet.
Right, it's still not in service as of right now.
But no one's ever got to you and say that, it's gonna be taken care of either. I mean, there's no,
It will be taken care of. A supernatant line would be tested for water type structure.
If there's managers there, I think it would be wise for the employees to go tell the managers who will be at the meetings, on the weekly meetings.
someone has to be responsible.
The managers who go to these meetings should know. They need to know because that's their job. We're counting on you. You know, I mean, this is a big deal. We have hundreds of millions of dollars going into this. We need to make sure that we can count on you guys to make sure that things get reported. You know, I mean, you guys are doing wonderful. I keep telling you this all the time, and I always will. We love the work that you're doing, okay? We don't have a problem with your work. That's not an issue here. The problem is when there's a lack of communication or complete drop in communication. We just want to make sure that if you see something, you're going to tell somebody who will be able to tell.
Well, he
the
thought
right
he did
person.
when he talked to Jacob's
Yeah,
plant.
but maybe you
They
guys
did
should
nothing.
all be speaking to the managers who go to the weekly meetings to make sure that everybody's hearing about it.
Is there other questions or comments for these two? Councilman Livingston?
Yeah, well, okay, I have a few questions. And Jerry, when you were talking, it seemed like there were a lot of issues that you were attributing to the design engineer, and not necessarily to the construction process, that these things weren't accounted for. For instance, you said that that there was in the cone with the stop leak foam that that this should have been addressed or could have been addressed sometime over the last 8 years. But I guess I'm curious to know, why it's being dealt with right before these components are supposed to come online. I mean, I get that the design engineer might have missed something, but where in your process do you account for things that were missed in the engineering design and deal with them in a timely manner? Because it seems like now, as these digesters are coming online, it's pretty late in the game to be addressing some of these issues.
We are not the design engineer.
Totally understand that.
That is the responsibility of another party. We are the construction manager. Our task is to have the contractors construct what you paid them to construct. We inspect those and manage the process for the owner to make sure that the owner gets what they paid for. But if the designer did not have an issue with the structure itself, it's not up to me to challenge the designer in his design.
Even if there's an obvious flaw.
I don't know that there's an obvious flaw. There's some leakage in the slab of that digester. Specifically, one of them is what I am aware of. And we went in and we fixed the area that could have been fixed before, between the wall and the slab. It didn't materialize at that time. If it had been visible at the time, we would have fixed it at the time. We already had a crew in there doing the work. It has come up, we will address that issue. The digester's not going online for at least another month.
Okay, well, there was
There
another
were some valves.
set of
that-
components, the valves that you said.
Again, if the plant addressed those with a designer, the designer either did or did not address them in the design. Maybe they felt that there was no need to. I can't express what their thought was.
What would have happened if we tried to run the process without replacing these 12 critical valves on the 3 digesters?
That's the process engineer.
Okay, well, so then it seems like the plant staff are considering a larger picture here that maybe you guys aren't considering. They're thinking about the longevity of this facility. They're considering what's going to happen when these components come online. How are we going to interact with these different facilities? How are these different components going to actually work in the long run? And I guess it seems like that perspective may not be as much of a concern for you because it's not in your contract and it's the.
It'd be a mischaracterization of what we consider important. We want this facility to be constructed correctly, but if the designer has a specific design, that's the task the contractor is responsible to do unless the designer or the owner directs a change.
So it seems like we actually need to be hearing these issues directly, not just Jacobs.
We
Because
can't get involved. This is my
Well, I'm
opinion.
not
gonna
saying
speak one
we
at a time.
as in the city council. I'm saying the owners need to hear some of these issues directly because if they're not in the engineering design, then
It does happen on a
It
local
does.
basis.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
what
changes.
Ron Lake is there for.
That's
He's,
what
he's
Ron
our,
Lake
yeah,
is.
he's our
And we
representative.
have the meetings weekly with the plant staff and the owner's representative, Ron Lake, and the engineer. And if those issues are brought up, they will be addressed.
And then we try to figure out how to pay for it. Sometimes the plants pay for it, sometimes we can run it through EFC. There's been different.
I don't know, the
things.
budget line.
But it goes on a weekly basis.
All right, we gotta move along here. One more question for Councilman Papstrad.
Thank you. When you have these meetings, Jerry,
I still have
does
I still have some more.
do you have members of the board or the whole board, sit in on these meetings?
Yeah, no, it's too much.
None of the board members.
We're getting
stay
over.
over meetings.
We're not getting anywhere.
They do not. So, how big is their role in this whole scheme of things?
How big is the board's
The
role?
board's role in this whole scheme?
They're responsible for managing the facility as it currently exists.
Yeah.
They're responsible.
Yeah, but they're not involved in construction.
No,
You're right.
they're responsible for managing the facility. Do they ask you questions, do they come over and?
When they ask us questions, we address the issues. They have a specific question about the condition of the parking lot in front of the administration building. We went over and we addressed the specific issue that it's not complete with the concrete curb. If it's not constructed according to the requirements of the contractor will make a remedy on that particular issue. The asphalt pavement, it'll be addressed. It gets a seal coat at the end of construction. All asphalt in that plant gets sealed at the end of construction. Those are issues that occasionally have been brought up by management of the board. There have been other issues that the chairman of the board has brought up, and some of which were wild goose chases because he was given incorrect information. And a fair amount of effort was spent trying to find out exactly what it was he was referring to.
So if he was given bad information, where was that coming from?
Would likely have come from somebody within the plant.
So it cost you time and money.
It costs the owner time for us to go find out the issues and address the issues. There's a classic example of it on the boilers. There was an issue that was brought to the city, directly to the city by Mr. Kolba, and he had said that the size of the gas line to the boilers was undersized. That was his opinion based on information he was providing. Turns out the issue was setting the adjustments on the pressure regulator for the building. Once we had the flow, we could test the boiler in its full capacity. The boiler performs exactly as it was intended to perform.
That's not an example of what you just cited earlier. You cited an example of inaccurate information coming from inside the plant, and then you gave us an example of the sewage board president giving you his concern.
Where do you think the sewage board president got the information?
That's what he said.
He just said it was the board president's opinion.
Based on probably, well, what I understand was.
He said it was his opinion based upon information that he more than likely received from inside the plant is what he said.
Rather than going in and changing piping at the expense to the owner without knowing the true cause of the issue at the time, we analyzed the situation to find out what the root cause was, and it was really the pressure settings on the regulator.
But there was an issue.
Yes, at the time that it was brought up to people, but it was a false assumption that it was a gas pipe size problem. So we were told from the city that it was out in the yard piping outside the building. It was not an issue outside the building, it was not an issue with the piping. It was an issue with the settings on the regulator. And once the conditions existed that we could actually properly test the boiler, settings were established, were correct, and it runs as intended.
I don't know anything
Both of
about the issue or the communication between you and George Colbo, but it sounds like maybe the pretenses and the characterization possibly of the issue was incorrect, but there was still an issue, so, you know, it's good that it was brought up.
It was incomplete.
Conrad, I was involved in this one, okay, George called me.
Yeah.
Okay? And basically what Jerry said, and Jerry knew there was a problem. He didn't know what the problem was, but he was able to keep the boiler up to do the things he needed to do. He knew that he had to fix it, okay? But it was working at that time,
Mhm.
okay? And so they did their homework, found out it was a regulator problem, not a pipe
Right.
difference.
Well, yeah, that's and you obviously did a fantastic job. That's your job
It would
to
be a
do
mistake
the homework.
to take every assumption that someone says and go try to fix that problem until you actually identify what the root cause of the problem is.
Of course.
All right, Councilman Scrooge has one more question, so is Councilman Libby, so one question each, guys, and we'll move on.
Go ahead, Councilman Livingston.
So I have a question. So the timetable that the timetable for completing the various stages of this construction project shifted pretty wildly over the 20 days prior to the submission of an updated consent order compliance table to the DEC, and I'm interested to hear your explanation, or really what explanation you intend to give to the DEC for the omissions and inaccuracies that they cited in their response letter to that timetable.
There's already been a letter prepared identifying specifically the issue. There were a number of people who were involved in the development of that letter, and there were some agencies that took place between them. We have identified in full detail to the DEC. That letter went out responding to those issues in full signature this week. Draft went out last week. But the long and the short of it is the two issues we were talking about on the non-compliance was the digester startup. The DEC staff meets with us monthly. They already knew that the digesters were not going to all be complete for construction by the end of June. It was a matter of filing the paperwork. And the second issue was the thickeners for the facility. There are multiple issues there. One is that is scope that is in the second phase of the construction contract. We do not want to rehabilitate those units, put them online when we had the grip going to the thickeners. So it was always an issue that was going to need to be addressed. We've been talking to the DEC about that for a year and a half. They are not talking within their organization. The regional manager did not know the specifics of what his staff had been talking to us about.
But it sounded like from my conversations with the DEC that 20 days prior to getting that timetable, they were hearing a completely different explanation of how we were going to hit these target dates, and then they got this updated timetable, and it just didn't match up with.
Their staff had been hearing all along regarding the issues on the digesters and the thickeners. It should not have been a surprise to them. We had a compliance form to fill out and transmit. We had to ask for a variance on those two components on the project. Because you cannot start up, or you couldn't complete the two digesters 1 and 2 until after the coatings went on inside that the owner decided to have installed, and then the roof went on the structures. That delayed the construction on the work on those two digesters. They're still not in service because there's not enough sludge to put them in service. It did not harm the process at all. The same thing applies to the thickeners.
So how do you communicate to the DEC this kind of stuff that it missed getting to the people who needed to hear it?
They're hearing it on a monthly basis and they're not communicating. So we are now committed to getting a direct communication with the regional director that seems to have this issue. not hearing from his staff was fine, so we need to bring him into that loop.
Thank you, Councilman. Just as an addendum to Councilman Livingston's question, what is the prospective date of completion?
That's a difficult question to answer. Phase one,
Compliance with Speedy's permit.
phase one is August 31st,
Right,
2019.
correct.
There's another interim milestone that happens where the process for phase one is meeting the biological speedies requirement. That is January 1st of 2020. The phase two completion is in April of 2020.
Okay. Lastly, at an attempt to achieve some clarity, these weekly meetings that are going on, Adam, I'm going to ask you specifically this because you were kind enough to sit and represent the plant employees. Is there someone that you directly work with or you directly report to, or maybe even someone at the same level of you that attends these weekly meetings that Jerry is speaking of?
Yeah, everybody that attends these meetings, I see on a daily basis.
Okay. So at the attempt of achieving some clarity, with respect to lines of communication, might it make sense that whoever that person or persons are that attend those weekly meetings be the person or persons that issues like this are communicated to? So at least once, I don't know if that currently is already the case, but if it is not, it would be my suggestion that it be that person, so at least you know Jane Doe or John Smith is visually with Jerry once a week to be able to communicate these, so it lessens or dampens this loss of communication that seems to be occurring. Just a suggestion.
When it comes to that pipe that was failing, I will admit fault to that one. I should have talked to everybody. I figured I talked to the gentleman that asked me to fill it, and I thought it would be taken care of. I do everything else, I do talk to him. Like the digester leaks, I went to my supervisor, I went to Elliot, that was brought up at their meeting. Now, that does normally happen. Just with that one situation, I figured he asked me to fill it. I filled it. I told him there was an issue. I thought we would be good there. But from now on, I will talk to everybody. I will seriously. I'll come to the weekly or monthly meetings here and tell you guys everything.
Adam, seriously, 772-7200. Call me if you feel like you need to. Seriously, you know.
100 call Gio.
Any one of us will be. I mean, I went on that tour with the both of you, right? I mean, I was able to get in contact with you. I was able to get in contact with Jerry. So I mean, keeping these lines of communication open is incredibly huge, right? Because not only is it a labor cost issue, not only is it a time issue, finite resources. These things can domino and impact what the ultimate Phase 2, April 2020 deadline is going to be, right? We don't want to see these things. And again, that's not that's not a plant employee. That this is just, again, a macro level thing.
All right, Adam, Mr. Afifi, thank you for coming. Jerry, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So we have to move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For Speedy's, not for phase two, so I don't know what he was talking about.
Say that again, brother.
So I Speedy's is that's like a permit.
Right.
And he said it was January. It's actually, this is the compliance table.
Compliance table.
He's saying January.
Communicate to the right person, that's what we call it.
I thought it was interesting that I wrote those dates down and he went like this.
Yeah, I can understand that.
The second one, but I think you're right.
Oh, we on, did we take a, did you guys take a recess? I don't think so. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I would stop the recording. Lots of people.
Like, you don't want to bring it to the.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Is Pat McGinnis here?
Can we get that closed?
I'm just gonna ask
Yeah,
them
can we
to
take
take
it out further and close the doors?
Yeah, Pat's with me.
I don't have any,
Can you guys take it
Tom,
further?
I don't see any issue with anything here. I'll sign off on everything. I'd like to.
I see it's communication.
You can leave, okay, yeah, so you're fine, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, feel better.
Feel better.
Feel better, Chris.
Hey, don't break a leg. Don't.
Jerry, you wanna go, or you wanna wait for Pat? There he
Keep
goes,
an
Pat,
eye
all
out
right,
for
there's
you.
Pat. All right.
Thanks. Oh, my God.
Pat, tell us about 19-153, please.
You want me to shut the door?
You're gonna have to, thanks.
That is a new operating agreement with Broome County for our senior citizen center in regards to the meal program they run there. It's pretty much the same as the previous one we
Feel better,
had.
Chris.
that
See you, Chris,
has
take
been
care.
care, Chris, feel better.
Expired for quite some time. I guess the county got audited and they need to re-up it. We did negotiate a little bit better for ourselves in regards to maintenance of the kitchen equipment. The city owns most of it, but we don't really use it, so the county's agreed to pay for half of the maintenance on it going forward when stuff breaks.
Questions or comments on this?
No.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you,
Thank
Pat.
you.
That was easy, Pat, sorry you had to sit through all that.
I'm easy.
All right.
I'm coming back later though.
Congratulations on the hype award.
Thank you.
Yeah, congrats.
Pat, hang on one second. Let's move on to 19-143. That's,
Pat, I'd like to grab you as well after the president.
Frank, so Ray's not here today, so I got Franco and Ray briefed me on these as well to present the council. Ray's gonna be back tomorrow, so if anyone has some
Just go,
questions,
Jess.
you can give them a call.
I can't hear both of them.
So, 19-143 is an agreement with Barton Judas for preliminary design services on pedestrian safety improvement project. This is the PSAP, this is the scatter site pedestrian safety improvements. Remember at a previous council meeting, I think it was the last one, we accepted the grant from DOT. This is to provide the engineering services to get the project done.
It's supposed to be blood.
Did you send me?
All I got. Pat's still out there. You got another one?
I got next one.
came back in, didn't he?
Yeah.
All right, questions or comments on this?
No,
You can erase it.
that's not how any of this works.
All right,
It's supposed to be in blood.
did you go over 19-143 when I was gone?
That's what I feel like sometimes.
Yeah, that was what they
Okay,
just
all right,
did.
good.
That was that.
All right, 19-144, please.
Okay, this is a change order with Acton Construction. There's some west side, some dead end work and some water main work going on the west side of Binghamton. Part of that, when they were looking at the King Ave water main, needs to be upgraded from a 4-inch main to an 8-inch main. This is work that could be done later, but while they have the street opened up, they want to do it to prevent future digging. They're working on Maple Street. There's also some dead end work that's happening south of Riverside Drive that's unrelated to this specific project. So this is a change order as it exceeds 25% of the original bidded amount, but we believe that it will save money in the long term.
I think it's a smart thing to do.
Questions or comments?
Because otherwise we'll be changing it down the road, so it's, yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
common sense.
All right, 19-146, please.
Okay. So, City Council previously awarded a contract with Barton Judas for Army Corps of Engineer and DEC flood wall conduit inspections. They will be cammering those lines very shortly, but when they camera the line, if any deficiencies are identified that need to be designed, this is sort of part 2 of that. This is for the design, if there's any deficiencies in the flood wall conduits. Of course, phase 3 would be actually fixing them. And so there's grant funding available for the future round, but TVing the lines is a requirement and something that the city was knocked for not doing in 2014 previously. So that's going to be underway. We need to actually design the improvements that need to be made.
Okay. Questions or comments? Thank you. 19-151.
Yep. You can see this a letter attached. This is for supplemental agreement for construction, supervision, and inspection work for the State and Holly Street traffic signal upgrade project.
This is the work that's going to be going on September, Franco, October, the current timeframe. We've ordered the signals, they're all on back order across the industry. This is the DOT portion of the agreement for construction inspection of the tap work that's going on. They finished the State Street improvements now, we're moving to the signal there, getting the crosswalks for the actuated pedestrian signals, new traffic signals, everything. And like I said, it's September, late September probably.
Looking good.
Yeah, and, you know, there's no traffic issues so far with the reduction in the lanes, in both directions. Traffic seems to be moving smoothly. And with the new signal, obviously those improved. They, if you notice, have some, depressions in the, I wouldn't call them depressions, but while they're working on it, you may have noticed, that's for actually actuated signals. So if there's no traffic there, the signals in the opposite direction will continue going. So this will really improve traffic flow. There's times in the night, the Holly Street coming from City Hall, there's nothing, traffic is moving through State Street. So not many intersections in the city.
I didn't know if you
Good.
wanted to see it.
Sounds great.
Okay?
Yep. One more, right?
145.
Yep.
This is a no cost, right, Franco?
It's a no cost, it's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's aware of the sign the project, correct?
We're on 145.
Am I right?
You're right. What are we talking about?
Yeah, why are we talking about it? If it's a no cost, it's a no-brainer.
Hopefully.
Questions or comments?
I have a question,
Yes.
Mr. President. So this is I'm just curious because I'm not entirely sure what these administrative lines are that we're shifting money away from, but I get that it's no cost, but we are moving money around. I'm curious to know where we're moving money from to pay for this.
Mr. Shager probably answer that.
Yeah.
Which page are you looking on there?
14, 15, and 16.
Are you talking about moving money from like the supplemental agreement one created?
Yeah, this is big.
Right.
When we did this project, it's all like one lump sum of like $6 million for that supplemental agreement. They haven't used up all of the money in, say, 1, 2, and 3, and they were at the 4 or something of that
So it's
nature.
budgeted out on
They're
the.
changing the scope of
Okay.
1, 2, and 3 to fund supplemental number 4.
There's nothing that changed within our UNIS system, okay, or the overall cost, but within how they break out an invoice or a purchase order, they may have supplemental one as $1 million. They may only have used $950, so they're moving an extra $50,000 down someplace else.
So this money's hasn't been spent. It's not that it's it was
Right.
allocated and then it's being shifted away from something that it was supposed to be spent on. Got it. Thank you.
That was already, they maybe saved money on that project, that certain project, and they would have done it.
Sure. Yeah, and I was just making sure that we weren't
Yeah.
moving money away from something that
No.
we were supposed to be.
Other
The only
questions
one
or
we should
comments
move
on
it
that?
from is the comptroller.
I think we're good, Franco.
Thank you.
Franco. In the market, any questions, Councilman Livingston, I know he's working on an issue with, that you raised as well, so we're, Franco's working on that, so.
Thanks, Franco.
Thank you.
Let's move on to 19-142 for Mr. Shager.
Jump up here.
Who's on Parks?
Parks is, me, you, Danny.
What,
No, I'm on Parks.
what Pat did in the park sign, is he
Who's
did
on
a-
first?
I was just waiting.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Pat did a variety of different.
Well, I don't.
Was that
moving
changed?
money.
Was that changed?
When he came on, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Are we set now?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chuck, try again.
Me and
Conrad.
Pat moved a lot of different money around in the parks budget for maybe $250 here, $400 here, to cover all the different, lines in his budget. And there's a couple that had to come here. I don't know exactly what they are, but,
The one that is in front of you is, we're moving money from the adult athletic supplies and adult league officials to youth athletic supplies, so, like uniforms and stuff that they have coming up for football and soccer, our numbers are coming in higher than expected, so it's gonna be some more,
It's good. They're finding,
we had a really good baseball season, more
Yes,
teams,
yes,
we
yes.
had different baseball, softball teams, so we just kinda went through a little
they're
fast.
becoming more interested. That's really good that the kids are
Good.
wanting to.
Do you guys have more
Their
promotion
youth
than
are-
normal this year around too?
So last year, I believe it was last year, we got a new software system, might have been end of 2017, called Desk, and it's really put us, kinda in sync with the times.
Yeah.
So now, I don't know who signs up for the program, we have their email address and stuff like that.
That's great.
We used to have to rely on the school a lot to get flags out.
Hmm.
Just drop the connect now.
Cool.
And that's been really big for our numbers.
That's great.
And almost all programs.
Other questions or comments? 19-147.
9147, the previous Commissioner of Parks, recently retired, and we need to fund some of her money that we had to pay out for sick time, vacation time, field time, so that we can get that position filled for the rest of the year. I don't know the exact amount, it was like $7,000, maybe as high as 10, I can't remember. But that's what this is for, so that we can get a replacement in there, for the next year's budget completed.
Questions or comments? 148.
148 is, as you know, we had a little wetness over here in the council chambers. It's gonna cost-
And the clerk's office.
It's gonna cost us about $36,000 to at least get it repaired, get the asbestos removed, do air monitoring while we're doing all that. We basically had $6,000 left in the line, so we used that up, but we need another $30,000 to finish it up before we get the green roof put on top.
Did you fix the lights while you're in the council chambers or no?
Did I fix what?
Did you fix the lights up there so the lighting's better or no?
No.
Okay.
That's not the area that was damaged.
Okay, all right. I tried.
What, do you mind if I ask
Sure,
about the green
go ahead.
roof? I've heard about it, but I don't know if there's any update, like, do we know when that's gonna be happening?
Yeah, I have to, there's on my list of things to do today. I believe that the state has just, or is about to give us the okay to bid it out. It's been
Have a good night.
designed, and we're looking to bid it out, I think, shortly, but we needed approval from New York State before we did.
Okay.
And we're pursuing an additional
What's that?
grant to assist us with it, but that grant won't be available until September for a different component, but we're moving forward with the nuts and bolts of it shortly.
And this work that we're doing is really just to repair the damage that was done. If we get another hard rain event, are we gonna see the same kind of infiltration?
Hopefully not.
Okay.
The work's being done without you guys funding this, because we can't afford this to happen, okay?
Oh, yeah, no, we definitely need to
And the
fix the
issue-
damage.
And the issue, according to the maintenance staff, that made the rain, while it was incredibly intense, there were some dead birds blocking
Ew.
a key drainage.
Yeah, there was like 3 of them, I think, right? Yeah.
So
God.
that
So the water
caused,
had nowhere to go.
that was the key difference. I mean, we've had heavy rain this year, that was what caused it to be so catastrophic.
Is the dead bird thing just a fluke, or is that a common problem up there?
Common birds, there's dead birds up there on a regular basis, I think.
So we just need to make sure to clear the gutters before
Some
heavy rain, I
flying
guess.
over
Yeah, no, that,
Do we have to contact PETA or anything?
Otherwise, it's like. I mean, but do we have a plan to make sure, like, next time we can anticipate a hard rain event, are we gonna go up there? Cause $36,000, it'd be nice not to get hit with that again.
That's correct, and the green roof project will fix many of the other issues that have to do with that roof. I think that have existed for a long period of time, probably since most of us have been here, most of you guys have been in council. But we were waiting on this green roof to be funded and have the grant paid for.
We had 2 inches of rain in 45 minutes.
Uh,
That was unheard of.
Oh, I know.
That
I mean, I was
absolutely
I was
unheard of.
there. We were all
I'll
there.
get into this at a future meeting, but they've done research regarding heavy rain events in cities across America. I won't get into too many details, but comparing the most rain in a given day in 1950, comparing that to 2018, we're getting almost an inch more per rain in the heaviest rain day now, as opposed to 60 years ago, when not just City Hall's infrastructure, but underground infrastructure across the city, stormwater was designed for. So that's a real challenge, not just for the city of Binghamton. You take the city of Miami or New Orleans, and you can see.
Anyway.
That's kind of a side topic, but I thought it was.
What would you attribute that to?
I would attribute that to climate change.
Other questions or comments?
Next RL, please.
Other questions or comments on 148? All right, let's go to 150.
Oh, God, wow.
Okay, 150, there's a Harding Ave water tank, on the south side of Binghamton. It feeds the water to the south side, as well as the town of Binghamton's water supply that they get from us. We've been working on getting a grant for this for a couple years, and we've been rejected. We have another request in for this year, but we're not gonna know until November. But engineering and outside engineers do not believe the tank will make it through the winter again, so we wanna get things started. I'm not positive that we will get a grant. I would almost say that we're probably not gonna get a grant once it gets started. They usually like ready projects, but not projects that have started, but we're still gonna try. But this is moving $644,000 out of the water fund balance to pay for this, tank.
This feeds South Mountain, doesn't it?
I believe so.
Part of it,
Yeah,
Sure does, yeah.
part of South Mountain.
So we're moving money from the water fund balance to the sewer fund balance.
No, from the waters, oops, that's not correct.
Oh,
It's not.
oh.
We're moving money from the water fund balance to a water capital project.
Right.
This is wrong.
The RL is
all-
wrong.
yes,
It's
all-
not
it's all-
sewer fund balance. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Other questions or comments on this?
That's it.
152.
At 152, when we did last year's budget, we put 50, we always have shortage of people in the refuse fund, so we said we wouldn't come back and move any money out of the personal wages until we save $50,000. We've exceeded that $50,000, but this is just straightening out that budget number. We did the same thing in general fund a couple months ago for the in the general fund. That was $100,000. This one's $50,000. This is the last of the things we have to do for that.
Awesome.
Questions or comments on this? All right. I think you're done, right?
I'm done.
Jared's gonna discuss recycling.
It should be pretty brief. Two things. The issue of plastic bags being in recycling bins is an ongoing issue. The county made some public service announcements regarding it. It continues to be a huge challenge. Single-use plastic bags are not able to be processed through normal recycling means. Certainly, New York State eliminating them will assist our local efforts in dealing with that. But we're going to be, through DPW, tagging, much like if someone puts up a TV incorrectly, tagging them with a green sticker that, this recycling bin has single-use plastic bag and we can't accept the recycling. We understand that a lot of times people use the plastic bags to collect the recycling from their homes and just put the entire plastic bag and contents in. They really need to only put the recycled materials in. Things slip in that are not recyclable all the time, but plastic bags specifically bring the recycling equipment at our local plant that we use to a halt. They increase the cost of recycling and is a contributing factor to one of the reasons why we no longer are paid for our recycling. And
2 years ago, we got paid for recycling. Now we're paying $50 a ton.
For it, yeah.
And then it only costs us $45 a ton to put in the landfill.
It's more expensive now.
so, we're committed to this, making sure that Binghamton continues to be a leader in recycling. But if you get calls from constituents, that's what it is. Pass along that information, and we're putting together a press release that we'll be sharing this week to that effect as well.
Okay.
Along those same lines, I know council asked some time ago about a free electronics drop-off day. We were able to get one scheduled actually for this Saturday at the DPW garage.
This Saturday.
So, a couple things I just wanted to run by everybody. We were thinking the times being from 8 AM to noon. Just want to get feedback on that. Does that seem reasonable? Should we shift it a little bit?
Is there any chance we could make it, push it
9?
out, like not to the
9 to
Saturday,
1?
or?
Yeah, not, yeah.
Like
9.
later in the month or something? Because it's not a lot of time to get the word out.
Well, in all reality, what we'll do is we'll make an announcement, or it'll appear maybe on the news, maybe in the newspaper. I mean, obviously, we rely
I'll
on
put it out
everybody,
there too.
You know, so I would think that there'll be limited coverage anyway.
And
But,
you're gonna have to show ID if you're
So
living in a
that's the other
city
thing,
place.
is that we've got a requirement that we're putting out there that, hey, show your license, show utility bill. You know, they'll be conscientious if it's somebody who, hey, they forgot it, but if they're driving, they should probably have a driver's license. And then also work with DPW to place a reasonable limit. This isn't for commercial businesses to be dropping off a slate of monitors. These are
For homeowners, residents.
Homeowners and residents. So the ones that we mentioned specifically, televisions, computers, printers, keyboards, radios, stereos, VCRs, if anyone still has them, microwaves, cell phones, and fax machines.
I have one.
Can you send us whatever you got as soon as possible,
Alright,
so we
that's
can
a-
get it out there, like the details on what can be.
9 to
I'm
1.
not getting rid of it either.
9 to 1? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, Saturday morning.
Just sleep on it a little bit.
I'm not getting rid of my VCR too bad.
Yeah, we
It's on my boat.
We'll send this out.
It's not me, it's
ASAP.
It's not me.
it's others.
That's all I had.
All right,
I had a
I
question
represent
about the
downtown.
recycling.
yeah, go ahead.
Jared, so you're saying it costs, we're currently paying $50 a ton? Is that right? For recycling. How much did we spend last year, paying to tip the recycling? Well, I guess I'm just wondering if not, in addition to slapping a sticker on people's bins, if we could maybe take some of the money that we could potentially save if we can get people on track and implement some sort of a advertising or outreach program to just let people know I'm sure there are model programs in other cities where, especially because I guess China stopped taking a lot of our recycling, so there are probably been municipalities that have found effective ways to deal with this that don't necessarily involve, wagging the finger at people, but,
Councilman, if I may, what money saving are you referring to?
if our recycling is of better quality, wouldn't we get paid for it again? Is that the idea here? Okay.
No, it's literally.
It's gone.
Yeah, and this is
permanently in the direction
This
of
is
we have
like,
to
yeah,
pay.
this is
Okay.
like a global thing. It's literally gotten to the point that recycling is actually now more expensive than throwing something out.
But taking Councilman Livingston's calendar here, there's nothing to say that the current recycler we have is gonna jack it up if we keep throwing bags in there.
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
That was my misunderstanding of
Yeah.
what you were saying. I
Yeah.
thought you were saying that it had shifted because the quality of our recycling was poor.
They get upset
Yeah.
at us when we have the volume of plastic bags. They can accept I think a certain level, but we were blowing past that quite regularly.
I know the Wegmans takes plastic bags. You
Yep.
can
We
put
include that
it.
in
They
the-
take everything.
Yeah.
Here's where you need to go.
Yeah.
I put mine in the trash. There's probably better ways that I could go about that. But,
A number of grocers and
Take 'em to the
retailers, you can
grocery
take it back to the
store.
bill
Yeah.
recycling. Yeah.
yeah.
I want that Walmart forwarded to me, that counter.
He just throws it directly in the ocean.
Yeah, and by the way, that's the result of climate change. Just so you know that.
I thought you were like, we shouldn't step in that before, and then you go.
No, I was just I didn't start it.
What's the result of climate change?
I don't know.
It's all Jared's fault.
It just sounded like a good thing to throw in at the moment.
The next discussion is 2020 budget, the clerk's office salaries. Let's just put that on hold and come back at the next work session with your ideas on that. No need to talk about it right now, we'll talk about it then.
That sounds good.
Pending legislation,
I have. Oh, sorry.
You wanna say something? Go ahead.
Well, no, I had another. I just was. I was wondering what the process is for getting these fines shifted over to the contractors, because it sounded like everybody was, not everybody. It sounded like the people who spoke at the last business meeting on the matter seemed under the impression that the city would ultimately not be paying these fines; that they would be passed along to some contractor or another. Can we start that process now? Is there
I think, that's probably a question for Ken or Chuck or both.
Yeah, I mean, that's all gonna end up in litigation.
so there's no first step where we say, you're responsible for paying this, and they say,
No, they
no,
put
you're
on
responsible
notice.
for paying it, and then we sue each other?
Yeah,
It just
they
goes
put
straight
on
to a
notice.
lawsuit?
No, they put on notice, but the fine's only gonna kick in based on how many additional days you were entitled to, based on changes of circumstance. Was
Right.
it a change of circumstance, or was it something foreseeable?
Yep.
So, I would say it's complicated, but that doesn't begin to explain how difficult it's going to be to sort it all out.
And it's gonna go both ways. We're gonna owe
Yes.
some people money, they're gonna owe us money. And Dan, I'm glad you brought it up here, okay? Because listening to people at the plant that know nothing about this contract or how anything's set up, okay, they can't answer these questions, okay? We can answer those questions, and Ken said, it's not as simple as saying, we're gonna pay it. We have to pay it right now, but there's gonna be different arguments with each different vendor in this whole process for everything, okay? The main thing right now is get the project done by the August 31st date, so it's up.
Deal with the
and running.
logistics later. Yeah, definitely.
And the first priority is getting the consent order.
Correct, yeah,
And I can tell you
exactly.
that there's some change orders coming down, but we told them, you're not seeing anything come down here until you get this thing up and running. So when you hear some things out there, you don't hear the whole, people are being held accountable for this whole thing. You guys just don't see or hear.
Well, I mean, I'm asking because it's been brought up at our business meetings, and I just want to know, if we have the right assumption here that these fines will be paid out by the contractors, and it sounds like the answer is it's complicated, and that in part, some of the money may come back to us, and in part, we may end up eating some of these fines. I also heard back from the DEC. I asked them for clarification on that question that we asked at a work session maybe 2 months ago of you about whether we would be seeing this fine money coming back to us, and they had confirmed that there was a misunderstanding there, that the fines are going into.
A grant.
What's that?
It's gonna go into a grant.
No, but they sent me the email that you had actually sent to them, clarifying that point, that there was actually a misunderstanding on the city's part, that we're actually, there's a certain amount of the money that we're gonna see coming back, a very small amount of it, but if we get hit with these big fines,
If we get hit with the big fine.
then we're paying those fines, and we're gonna have to work it out in litigation, and any money that gets paid to the DEC isn't gonna come back to us from the grant through the DEC.
And they basically told us in the meeting.
Okay, yeah, got you.
Less discussion, the better.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Sorry.
No problem, no problem.
Sorry.
To do the upper level of that grant.
Right, but in their response to me, asking for clarification on that supposition that you just put forward,
I'll call Matt Marco tomorrow.
yeah, I mean, I have the email and the response
I know you
that
have.
you sent.
I'll call Matt and remind him clearly of what he told us.
Yeah, but if we start,
That's not true going forward.
yeah, it's
Right,
not.
sure.
That's what
not
I'm
true on
saying.
September 1, nobody has said that.
September, but from the January timeframe till now, it's
Correct.
gonna go into a grant phase.
Nobody has ever said that fines in September, if there are gonna become part of that program.
Or if it's $37,000 a day.
Correct.
And I was just clarifying that. Because I am talking to people other than plant staff. I'm learning some stuff, so I just wanted to sort that out with you guys here. That's all I had.
All right, pending legislation, please, Mr. Rogers.
Just what's on your list here.
Yep.
We're amending the ban for the sewer budget. We do have to make an update to 128 with the confined space rescue.
Okay.
Amend the 2019 joint sewer budget for additional appropriations and insurance recoveries. The zombie properties. Amending the engineering DPW budgets for temporary services, reverse permanent ordinance 1911, snow removal budget. We're amending the the IMA with joint sewer with Johnson City. Mental Health Association is giving us money for police overtime.
That's an annual deal, isn't it?
That's a what?
That's an annual deal, isn't it? Don't they do it?
every year? I don't recall. Yeah, I don't recall them doing it. I think this is new.
It's a new one, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yep. All right,
And then, the ESG funds.
okay. I'll take a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
We're adjourned.